So I'm going to begin, Unjoo, because I know I've not got too much time, but just what it was that initially attracted you to telling Helen Reddy's story.
When I first met Helen, it was really by accident. I was at a dinner, which is an award show in Los Angeles called the Good Day Australia Ball. It celebrates Australian achievement. And when I realized who was at my table, I made my husband swap seats with me, because for me, when I hear the name Helen Reddy, it just really reminds me of growing up as a child in Australia and how her music used to make the older women in my life, my role models, it seemed to make them stronger and bolder. I always tell the story of how I was literally sitting in the back of my parents' station wagon. I think it was a yellow Volvo in the 70s. And I'd hear, Helen's music come on. And my mother and her friend used to wind down their windows and let their hair loose in the breeze and sing along really loudly. And that's how I really remember her story. And so when I met her, I just really wanted to try to understand what it was about her as an artist that wanted to make music like this.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously, the fight for equality is still ongoing. But does it feel? I mean, so to say this is a good time for the film to be released almost seems a silly thing to say, because in some regards, it's been a good time for this film to be released at any point. But it does feel like now people are speaking up more. I think particularly in America this year with the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff, it feels like we're all starting to have more to vocalize our sort of stuff and to create more dialogue about social and political issues. So with that in mind, is this quite a good time, you think, for this film to be released?
Well, when I started working on the screenplay, I used to always say to Rosemary Blight, my producing partner, I used to say to her, it's going to be incredible when we actually make this movie, when we're in production, we're probably going to have America's first female president. And people will look at our movie and say, wow, what a long way we've come. But of course, the world changed and things became very different. And I think the full impact of why a story like this became even more relevant right now really hit me when I was at the Women's March in 2017 in Washington. I went there not only to support the cause, and I really wanted to be there at the march, but I also wanted to stand in that exact same spot at the end of the film where Helen stands in 1989 at the Lincoln Memorial, and she looks out at that sea of people and she sings "I'm Woman." And I stood there in 2017. I looked out at the Lincoln Memorial. I saw a sea of pink hats, and I saw somebody holding a sign saying, "I'm woman, hear me roar." In fact, that I took a photo of it, and that still is actually at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, no, yeah, I was wondering. I mean, obviously, it's such a sad loss that Helen sort of passed away last week, but how happy are you to have known her and to have spent time with her and for her to be such a big part of your life?
I think that when you make films that are about real life people, you not only embrace them, but you embrace their whole world. And in Helen's case, very much her family as well. So I think I'm really blessed to have gotten to know Helen and that she really entrusted me with her story. But I'm also blessed to have gotten to know her family and how supportive they've been, and how much all of them, and especially Helen, that they got to see the movie, and that Helen got to not only see the film and love the movie, but she got to hear about how much audiences have loved the movie. I think that's really meant a lot to her. And I think it's been amazing it's been a really hard week and it's been a really sad loss. But I think I found it extraordinary just to see the kind of response that women have had. Everybody from Julia Gillard, who is the first female Prime Minister of Australia, wrote an article about what "I'm Woman" meant and what Helen Reddy meant to her. And, other people, Billie Jean King, Debbie Harry, Olivia Newton-John, people that Helen knew in her time when she was performing in the 70s and 80s, and who she remained friends with. They've all posted tributes to her. But what I particularly really loved and really felt the impact of is just looking on Instagram. People have been sending me the most incredible videos You know, I saw a girl, like an amazing music artist in Brazil, you know, sing I'm Woman. I saw 2 women in Midwest America in a car singing I'm Woman. I saw a group in Australia sing I'm Woman a cappella. I just think the outreach of what her lyrics have meant to women has just been even more stunning when people really have embraced what these words have meant to them.
Yeah, because you mentioned that she'd seen the film. I'm just wondering if you watched it together, and also, and if, even if not, how sort of nervous were you waiting to hear her reaction? Because I guess of all the kind of critics, of all the reviews you might read, hers was the most important.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Stefan. That was really the scariest screening I've ever done or ever will do. I think every other screening or anything anyone says about the film doesn't pales in comparison to having to watch it. I mean, she was actually sitting right in front of me. We did 2 screenings. We did one with her and her 2 children, and some of the other family members were there. And then we did a separate screening for her ex-husband, Jeff, and his current wife, Deborah. And I think that I was so busy at the time that I didn't really think it through. But when the song You're My World started, and it's Helen's real voice that starts the movie, when that started, I just actually think I went into panic mode when I realized that she's sitting in front of me. And then I started to worry, you know, what if she doesn't like what the movie is? And I kept thinking, you know, there's nothing I can do now. I can't change a lot of things. But that was a very short-lived moment of panic. I realized very quickly that Helen was singing along to the songs. She was holding her granddaughter's hand. She was very engaged with the movie. She really kind of just, you know, melted into this movie, and it was fantastic to see. But it was also very moving because at the end of the film, she read the final cards out aloud, and after she read the last card, which is about the Equal Rights Amendment and how it's never been passed into the US Constitution, Helen started to cry, and it was so incredibly touching because it was not sadness on her part. It was very much to do with the impact of her life, her story, the impact that this movie had on her. And she hugged her children, and then she hugged me, and then I knew it was okay to finish this movie. I knew I had her blessing.
Yeah, well, I'm just so thrilled that she was around to see this wonderful celebration of her life that you've presented for her. So, but I was wondering too, I mean, the lead, Tilda as a lead is fantastic. I just wondered about that moment when you realised you'd found your Helen, because was it quite a long kind of casting process? And what was it that made you think, yes, we've finally got it?
It was a really long casting process, and you know, and when I saw a photo of Tilda just standing in the street, she wasn't even in a casting session, or I didn't even see a headshot of her or anything. We had looked in 5 different countries. I looked at worked with different casting directors trying to find the right person. Of course, when you make an independent film and you're trying to raise money, everybody just wants you to cast a star initially. And I'd gone down that route as well, but I just know that when you're making a film where there's an audience that so clearly remember her, and even the people that don't know her, they're going to jump onto Google and look her up immediately. And there's so many amazing videos of her. So there's always going to be a comparison. Even if no matter how well you take an audience on that journey, people are always going to talk mostly about the casting of who plays Helen Reddy. And I knew how important it was not only to get it right, but once it was right and we found Tilda, and I knew very quickly when I met her that Tilda had a lot that she could bring in terms of how she'd grown up, in terms of her background. She grew up in the circus. You know, Helen grew up in vaudeville, so she had an energy and sort of a lightness about her that she could really bring to Helen's character. But I also knew that in preparing for the role, how much we had to come in and support Tilda in everything she needed to do to prepare for the role. And she did a lot of things. She had 6 weeks of rehearsals. She had voice classes, movement, choreography, endless hair and makeup tests, camera tests, wardrobe that was designed and fitted on her. And, she even had to learn to sing, because you have to really believe that she is singing like Helen Reddy. Yes, Tilda is luminous and breathtaking in the movie. And I think that her greatest compliment is that Jeff Wald, Helen's ex-husband, after he watched the movie, he had tears in his eyes, and he actually said to me, at times I thought I was watching Helen.
Oh, well, if you didn't know that already, I'll pass it on. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's really lovely to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Take care, Unjoo. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey You